So the one and only UTI, Nwachukwu, the Big Brother Africa winner, very eloquent, very tall, amusing guy, an amazing guy. Yeah. He was saying something about Hellfire recently, and he says clearly that he doesn't believe in hell, and said that he thinks that Hellfire was used as a way to put people in check, that it doesn't really exist, that it doesn't make sense that God creates heaven, loves you, and then after loving you by creating you, he now creates hell, for basically not serving him or being a sinner. So he practically doesn't believe that hell exists. And he actually made some very salient point. And I would like you to listen to those points. And thereafter, I would also make my own submissions. So let's listen to him.
Yeah, I stopped believing in hell for like 10 years now. I think hell is just a religious tactic to keep people in line, to control them. The concept of hell itself goes against, what the same religion portrays as the nature of our Creator. The Holy Bible has defined love and has defined our Creator as love. It says, your God is love, right? Go through the definition of love in the Bible. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious, love is not boastful, and then the most important part, love does not keep a record of what? Wrongdoing. So therefore, this is why school is good. Let's do small mathematics. If God is love, right? And love does not keep a record of wrongdoing, therefore, it means God does not keep a record of your wrongdoings. Who then is not keeping the record of the wrongdoings?
Oh, really?
That they've talked about on Judgment Day. Except you're talking about devil, the accuser that will keep, a record of your wrongdoings. That day, devil could mark a register, say, Baba God, see all these things, and then Jesus come and watch those things. But then, why hell in the first place? God is in yesterday, God is in today, and God is in tomorrow. God is omnipresent, right? You are telling me that this being of love, before forming you, right? This being of love know all the decisions where you go make good. This being of love knows whether you will receive the good news, receive that message, and whether you will make good choices and where your choices will lead you to. Has seen the end. And then that means that this God knows that this person I'm creating will either end up in heaven or hell, and will still go ahead and create someone just to go to hell. And you tell me free will.
Sophia analogy.
Yes, God definitely knows the choices you would make. So why create somebody just to burn in eternity? And it's so apt that it's fire, which is like the, when you think of the most damage, it's fire. Did he say in a lake of water where you just be drowning, or did he say someone will be choking you for eternity? Or did he say someone will be wiping you for eternity? Burn forever. So you will live this your life here on this physical realm. Then, after making evil choices, you will now go and burn in eternity.
What's wrong with
Which
this
also
guy?
means that before God created Lucifer, God also knew that Lucifer was going to rebel. So it's almost like saying, oh, that was just an excuse to create hell. Because why do you create a being knowing that that being is going to rebel against you, and then you will now create an environment to create more people to go and suffer in hell? How does that make sense? My God is not narcissistic. That is a narcissistic trait. Basically, if you don't worship me, if you don't love me, if you don't do this or do that, you'll go to hell. It's almost like blackmailing you to worship. I don't believe in hell. Yeah, I stopped believing in hell for like 10 years now. I think hell is just a religious tactic to keep people in line, to control them.
Okay, so he doesn't believe in hell, and it's a tactic to control them. Sometimes I like to go do a little bit of research and maybe also get my own point of view, because again, sometimes this research that we depend on online are usually people who put up their own opinion, and Google just shows them and picks them and then says it's point. So I wanted to find out more, and I just asked ChatGPT, does hell really exist? And do you think hell was used metaphorically or hell was used in order to, keep people in check. And here's the response. After the response, I'll tell you whether I believe it or not. The religious viewpoints in Christianity and in Islam too, hellfire is described as a place or state of eternal separation from God, often symbolized by fire, torment, or darkness. The idea is rooted in justice and accountability. Those who reject God's grace or commit evil without repentance face divine punishment. Jesus himself spoke about the fire that never goes out. Mark 9:43. Please check it out, which many interpret literally or symbolically. Number 2, the symbolic and philosophical viewpoint. Some theologians and scholars believe hellfire is not a physical place but a metaphor, representing the pain of moral and spiritual decay, alienation from goodness, or the suffering caused by choices against divine truth. In this sense, hell is self-inflicted rather than imposed. Another viewpoint, which is the sociological viewpoint. From a social control perspective, yes, many historians argue that the idea of hell was sometimes used by religious institutions to keep people morally disciplined or obedient. The fear of eternal punishment is a powerful motivator, but that doesn't automatically mean the concept itself was fabricated. It could also reflect an attempt to describe metaphysical truths in human terms. In summary, if you view religion as divine revelation, hellfire exists as justice's counterpart to heaven. If you view religion as human construct, hellfire might be a tool, a moral deterrent. If you take a philosophical approach, hellfire could represent a state of being, separation from truth, love, or meaning. When people talk about the fact that they don't believe in hell, it's just because they don't sin so they kai. They say, I no go this my sin, I no go feed this sin or this sin finish, then I'll go and burn in hell. No. I want sin is to still go heaven. I don't know the standpoint of where this guy was talking from, but you could tell that it is not that he doesn't believe that hell exists, because he just said he started believing that hell doesn't exist 10 years ago. Just 10 years ago. So this viewpoint of his might be influenced by certain actions and activities and certain things he must also have seen and heard, and also has read God from the Holy Bible that he reads, that God cannot create human beings in order to kill them. I mean, you cannot create somebody and say oh, I know who you are, I know what you do, I know your choices, and I know that you are going to end up in hell, and then decide I'm not going to create you anyway. Does that make any sense? So by putting it out there like that, it almost seems as if he shouldn't be held responsible for the sins that he has committed. His own is that don't. I don't think nobody's going to hellfire. I don't think it exists, because God is love, and the love of God is inherent is so much so that he wouldn't be creating people just to put them in hell, knowing that they are actually going to, commit sins, and knowing that way they are going to end up at the end of the day. I want to use the concept of Adam and Eve to answer him straightforwardly. God doesn't create people and then decides for them what they become or what happens to them. God creates you and you become responsible for the choices that you make, as long as it is guided by his word and by what he has admonished us through the Bible. So you cannot say, oh, God created somebody. God created human beings, knowing that this particular human being is going to end up in hell, and he still goes ahead to create them. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He even though he's omnipresent, he allows you to take your decision. He gave instruction to Adam and Eve in the Bible. All these fruits are here, but this particular one in the middle of the garden, do not touch it. And then he gives you instruction. You know this is an instruction from God, and then you go and break that instruction. You go against the instruction given to you. And instead of you to bear the consequences, to take the consequences of that instruction that's been given to you, then you now say, I shouldn't bear the consequences because I failed in not taking responsibility for the actions that I take. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, because God created you, yes, but you cannot blame God for creating you and then ask God that and tell God that since you have been present and been knowing, why did you even go ahead to create someone at all when you know they are going to end up not following your instruction? Does it make sense? Does it make sense to you? He created you, gave you the book of life. This is the way, the truth, and the life. And in that's your movement or your activity on earth, God said, this is the way. You know this is the way God wants you to live, but you left that part. You don't want that part. Then you now start going astray. And then you now blame God for even creating you, knowing that you are going to not take the right decision. Whose fault? Not to take the right path and the right decision. Whose fault? God? These are people who don't want to take responsibilities for their sins, for the acting against God's will or against God's word. They just don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to bear the consequences of being a sinner on earth. They just want to not think about the fact that there is hellfire somewhere waiting. No, they don't want to take responsibility, because if they do, it will mean that, if God they count the the sin, it go plenty. It go too plenty. So the idea of saying God is omnipresent, omni-knowing, and he knows when he creates somebody, it's going to no. God already he knows that you are going to fall a victim of a particular situation. I mean, you are blaming God for even creating you in the first place. How about you take responsibility for the actions you take when he has given you the right path to take? How about you take that action? Because he has given you all that you need. It's all up to you to take the decision, to choose between what he has told you and what you want to do. And so when you decide to take what you want to do as against his word, then take that responsibility. Don't blame him for creating you anyway, because he knows you are going to end up. No, that is a cynical way of describing it or even thinking about it. I'm sorry to say, but it's just very wrong to analyze God that way. It's giving you a choice. Choose. And he knows, he has told you this is the way, and then you went and choose, and then you start blaming him for knowing that you would choose bad. And then why does he take time to create you when he knows that you would choose bad? Are you kidding me right now? See my point. I don't really care if the hellfire in the Bible is used as a metaphor, or maybe it's a way to gauge people, or a sociological way of also doing things, just like ChatGPT had explained. I don't really care, but mine is hellfire exists. It does exist. At least people should take responsibility for their actions, even if it is a way of checking people. Let it be, because if truly there isn't any check in what humans are doing, the world is even a very, very toxic environment already. So imagine if there was no no checks. Imagine if there was nothing to check people who run ultra-virus, who do things, without thinking. Come on, guys. We probably would have Christian extremists if I thought there was nothing of that nature. Who knows? Who knows? But this is my thought. His thinking for me is flawed. And I don't think blaming God in that manner would in any way mean that anybody should not take responsibility for their actions. If you sin, you should be punished. I mean, we know in the past, during the Old Testament, the time where once you sinned, you are getting your punishment immediately. Like, if it is possible, everybody should be taking their responsibility. Everybody should be taking the responsibility for the whatever thing, whatever sin that they have committed. If you sin, you get punished immediately. So maybe one hand from heaven will just slap the hell out of you, then you go bring go reset to or something. That way people can also check themselves, because I really don't know where Nwachukwu was coming from in that direction. What do you mean by God is love, and because God is love? Okay, so let's say, for instance, we are in a family. You have a father, you have a mother, you have kids. And your mother gives an instruction. This, don't go close to the gas. Don't go close to the gas. Don't go close to the gas where you don't have control over it. To the kids who are at least between 9, 12, 15, who are, they know when that's an instruction. And then the kid goes, when the mother is not around, the kid goes to touch what they were asked not to touch. You are saying no, that why did the mother even give birth to the child, knowing that the child is not even going to respond or heed to the instruction given to her? That's the explanation that he's given. That's the explanation. So you will ask yourself, why would the mother even give birth at all to the child when you know that the child is not going to heed your instruction? At the end of the day, the gas burns the child up. What kind of thinking is that? So the mother should not give birth hoping and knowing that, since the child since she knew that the child is not going to respond or respect the instruction, she shouldn't have given birth to the child at all. What kind of thinking is that? God is love, but he can consume. He's also a consuming fire. If you sin, you will see water. There's no two ways about it. You can't sin against God, sin against humanity, and then now come and say that since God knew that you are going to sin against humanity and going to sin against people, since God has not done, why did God create this person knowing that this person is going to be like this? No, God gives you the opportunity to choose. And when you choose and choose wrong, bear the consequences. If it is a hellfire, so be it. If it is something else, so be it. Don't come and blame God for these kinds of... I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, not everybody knows it all. I've given my opinion. I would want you to also add your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, as always. Maybe I might even just have said gibberish, or I don't even know whether my points even make any sense. But just let me know what you think in the comments. I think I will be on the comments to respond quickly to this particular one. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.